Hello. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about freedom and choice in relation to Montessori and the classroom, especially in a math classroom for adolescents for obvious reasons. People have different ideas about what freedom means and why it is even mentioned at all, so I'd like to just talk about a couple of quick points with you today. When we're talking about freedom, we're often talking about the freedom of choice. This does not mean unlimited freedom or the choice not to work, but students can often choose what they work on within certain limits. For example, here's a map that I may give students about the choices they have in the different lessons and activities they can do. After the initial lessons in the arrows, they can choose which work they can do based on their own backgrounds and interests. They have the freedom to work at their own level. As long as they've demonstrated mastery of the necessary prerequisites, they can work on whatever they would like. Again, freedom within limits. Another choice students get to make is as to how they will work with each of these skills. They could ask for a lesson, do an exploratory activity, have it be part of a project, use some materials we have in the classroom, just do some practice problems, do some writing about it, or a combination of these. By having these choices available to students, we're able to meet the needs of different types of learners while allowing students to have control over their own education. By empowering students to make these choices, they have more buy-in and motivation than if we force them to do something they don't want to do. Again, there's choice, but within limits. Students also have the freedom to work at their own pace. This does not mean to go as slow as they want to. It means that if they put in their maximum effort, they'll be given the time to be able to complete the work to the level they need to in order to be competent with the topic and to be able to move on to the next activity. Too often, we control the pacing for the students. But giving students this control takes away a lot of external anxiety and pressure, and when that pressure is removed, students are able to focus more on the actual task at hand rather than worrying about deadlines and grades and so on, which can be detrimental to their focus and divide their attention. Students also have freedom of movement. After the initial lessons are given, students often have a long period of time, usually 3 to 6 weeks, where there is not structured class time, but it's just time for students to work. During this time, they can sit where they like, move around the classroom to get materials or activities, talk with other students to ask them questions or to collaborate, and even go to the shelf to grab a puzzle or a game for something different to do for a time. Each student has responsibilities, and these come from them, in collaboration with me, but the onus is on them, and it is their motivation that drives them forward. This is so much more effective than having the teacher have to be the external motivator. Freedom is really about removing barriers. Adolescents, by their nature, are often looking for something to push against, and this causes tension, both in the student and the adult. The tendency as the adult is often to tighten up, to impose more restrictions, to control the child. But the reality is, the opposite is much more effective. When you give freedom, especially for teenagers, then those external barriers are removed. They have no one to fight against anymore. We can then become collaborators and allies and partners with the students. School becomes their place, and they're there for their own work. When we see this happen, we see higher motivation and concentration from the students. We see the students more invested in their own learning, and they have more joy in their work. And then the classroom has that excited hum of activity, and it's such a beautiful and productive place to be. So let's remember the key role that freedom and choice plays in our classrooms, and really believe in the adolescent that's in front of us. Thank you.